Sometimes we forget why we're here. It's easy to fall off track. These help us remember.
These battle scars don't look like they're faded, don't look like they're ever gone away. They ain't never gonna change. These battles.
Growing up I had a dream, something no one else could see. Tell me what it means when your faith is falling beneath your knees and you can't breathe. Everything you see reminds you of what you're not or something you won't be. You gotta take what you're given, that's how we live it. Don't be mad at the system, it's simply how we've existed. I hear a lot of people talking like they politicians and choose to be an accountant because it's safe in the business. Not because they wanna do it, just because they heard it pays. And who the fuck wants to be poor knowing that's how we've been raised? Society is getting heavy, I can feel the weight. The pressure of success is like 100 million pounds of shame. And that's the reason I'm staying up late, trying to find a way to escape the stereotypes this day and age is making me feel like the only way I'll be happy is getting signed to a label and making money through rapping. I wanna share my emotion because this world is attacking the very principle of life that lets the people be happy. If you don't have a reason to breathe, why even live? These battle scars are impressions of everything that it is.
Don't look like they're faded, don't look like they're ever gone away. They ain't never gonna change. These battle scars don't look like they're faded, don't look like they're ever gone away. They ain't never gonna change. These battles.
Now, if I had a voice that reached 100 million people, I'd tell them there's a reason that we're all created equal. Cause some decide to be great and some decide a sequel to an average person's life is simply what they want to be. So you make your decision, all I know is what I'm given. Won't define the life I lead or the way I dwell in existence. I've seen a greater image on the walls of where I'm living, and the words twisted and scripted remind me of something written. Faith is a gift that is given down to the people. If one believes it, one receives it. It's given if it is needed. Don't ever think you're trapped in a life that you never wanted. Your options are infinite, that's some mathematical logic. I'm not saying I'm a prophet, I'm speaking for what it's worth. These lyrics define my prayers and these battle scars on my church. Not saying I'm a prophet, I'm speaking for what it's worth. These lyrics define my prayers, these battle scars on my church.
Don't look like they're faded, don't look like they're ever gone away. They ain't never gonna change. These battle scars don't look like they're faded, don't look like they're ever gone away. They ain't never gonna change.
I literally just sat down. I was running to find my soda. How are you all doing? I hope you are well. I hope you are ready for the excitement of today. Not sure how long this show will be. This is one of those shows that could be an hour. It could be 10. Who knows? Let's try to keep it an hour or under, but you never know. I did do 3 hours on Delaware bylaws once, so you do never know. Well, welcome everyone. Remember, these shows are always participatory, so I would love to see your comments. And hello, JJ. I am doing well. I feel like that Star Wars episode. We're all good down here. How are you? Equipment malfunction. So, yes. Today is a day. Today is a day. Before we get started, I would like to encourage everyone to go to my merch store at tinyurl.com/Pink Flame merch. And you can get there t-shirts that have an actual, like, meaningful convention logo on it instead of that really silly, community theater, Phantom of the Opera-esque defrauding the donors who thought they were contributing to an anti-lockdown theme, and turned out that they were contributing to a theme that the convention committee, not all of them, because Janae had already said she did not agree, twisted into something that had absolutely nothing to do with what the donors contributed money to. Like, absolutely ridiculous. So anyway, I'll go off on that rant forever. And hello, Janelle. So please go to my merch store, tinyurl.com/pinkflamemerch, and pick up your Liberty Unmasked gear. I'm going to be adding some sweatshirts since I was asked for that. Also, some sweatshirts to the Reno Reset line, because some people wanted to purchase those. But I am splitting proceeds with the designer of that good Liberty Unmasked logo. So please do support the designer, and you will also support this show. Patreon.com/Pink Flame of Liberty if you like this kind of content that you will not be getting anywhere else. So where to begin? Sometimes just even knowing where to begin on this, and I'm glad there is some people here from Massachusetts who can correct me wherever I'm wrong. And I do encourage you to correct me where I'm wrong. I am dealing with a lot of states right now that need assistance in various things. Some of them controversial, some of them not, some of them very routine. I look sometimes at 10 different sets of bylaws in a week. I can get my wires crossed and my facts mixed up. So if I mix anything up, please correct me in chat. So where to start? And some of this is going to be quite general because more of a general audience. But in Massachusetts, at one time in the land of Massachusetts, there was one party. Well, there still is only one legitimate party, but there was only one party claiming to be the Libertarian Party of Massachusetts. And the board was getting a bit out of control and a bit tyrannical. And inspired my Committee on Unlibertarian Activities episode, actually. I love these classes. Because they just started getting super draconian. And this happened after the unjust removal of me by the LNC. Because we all know what the top does, the bottom continues. And thank you so much, Charles Lazaro, for your super chat. I'm going to put that up on the screen here. All super chats do go to support my campaign. And thank you so much for your support. So, they were not liking the direction this board was going in. The board ended up removing one young lady because they didn't like some comments she made on social media, very similar to what the LNC did to me, and calling words violence and aggression when we're not talking about, when I say words aren't violence, we're not talking about threats. I mean, credible threats, you don't have to wait for someone to pull the trigger for you to take action. But we're talking about calling people names that you don't like or criticizing them. Or in the case of the young lady who was expelled from Massachusetts, who goes by the name Rothberdian on Twitter. And so if you all wonder why these oblique references I keep making to the mean bird, she's the mean bird. Because she said she was going to troll the state party. Oh no, she was going to troll you. How will you ever survive? So the state party, that was one of the reasons they expelled her and said that trolling was aggression. Boy, we have a lot of aggressive people apparently in this party. Show me on Twitter where the trolling hurt you, please. That is as anti-libertarian as it gets. So that's how this all started. And then word got around that they were going to be passing this draconian code of conduct. Codes of conduct are just speech codes. They have no place in a libertarian organization. And some people will say, yes, but if we don't have these codes, then how are we going to know if there truly is a bad if there truly is a bad actor? How will we deal with them? Well, here's the fact. Nearly every parliamentary authority that you're going to be operating under allows you to discipline actual bad acts. You don't need to have a speech code in your bylaws or your rules to do that. You don't have to do that. All that happens is these things get weaponized by those in power. And that happens every single time. We as libertarians of all people should know that we don't need speech codes, particularly when we're talking about speech that people are making in their personal lives. And this lady wasn't even in leadership. You know, I know some people will make an argument that if you're in leadership, you don't have a personal life. I completely reject that assertion, but I understand it. It's not completely unreasonable. I reject it, but it's not completely unreasonable. But when you're dealing with the average everyday member, they get to have personal lives. They get to have personal lives. Where I say what leadership is, you don't get to say that you can't be criticized or things like that. When you sign up for leadership, you sign up to be criticized, and sometimes it's not fair. Sometimes the critics are just jerks. You signed up for that. You can choose not to be in leadership, but you do not lose your right to political free speech, particularly when you're calling out what you think to be the mishandling of the rest of leadership, because you're of all people would be in a position to know. And for the rest of the leadership to shut you down, that's just cronyism at its worst. And that's what happened with me. That's not what happened with her. She was just a regular member, so it was even worse. But of course, we're going to say LAMA for short. It's because they don't call themselves the Libertarian Party in Massachusetts, where this LAMA thing comes in. It's the Libertarian Association of Massachusetts. I'm not even getting into all of that. So that's what they chose to do. Because, you know, once you push a boundary like the LNC did with me for saying that I, in my personal life, because notice the accusations against me were not about any email I made on the official list, nor about my behavior in meetings. It was they did not like my personal opinion and my personal life. And I have the same opinion about that stance as I did then. And it's this. I will always have my own personal opinion on my own personal life, and anyone who doesn't like it can kiss my libertarian ass. But I always was professional in meetings, and I will always remain professional in meetings, and I try to be professional on the email list. Everybody loses their temper every once in a while. And we can see that has happened a million times since they removed the disruptive secretary that was keeping them from getting anything done. Look how much they've gotten done since I've not been there. Nothing. They've managed to omit periods from the end of sentences and minutes. Okay. Period savings time. Anyway, this isn't about me. This is about Massachusetts, but we are related. We're cousins, because but for what happened to me, I don't think that would have happened to Rothbardian. And then but for what happened to Rothbardian, I don't think what happened next. So they wanted this code of conduct to clamp down on other members because they were just so heady with power after removing Masha. So then the members really weren't too happy about this alleged code of conduct, because the code of conduct morphed over time. And I don't know what ended up being in the final provisions. My memory's, you know, I'm not going to remember every single detail. But at certain portions in time, some of the provisions of this code of conduct was that you couldn't criticize libertarian candidates. Really? So we wouldn't be allowed to criticize Bill Weld now, would we? Well, I'll say, as I've always said, fuck Bill Weld. He was horrible, and I'm glad he left, because he wasn't a libertarian. I don't care if he paid $1,500 to be a lifetime member. Bill Weld is not a libertarian. But there's been other candidates. In Colorado, we had a candidate at one time who started making death threats to our governor. Pretty sure it was to the governor. It was death threats to somebody. What? I'm not allowed to criticize that guy? Fuck that guy. You don't make death threats to people. Or what if you find out, you know, there's all kinds of reasons you can criticize libertarian candidates. You should be allowed to criticize your candidates. And you weren't allowed to criticize the board. As I said in Colorado, because our past board, not immediately past board, but the board before that disallowed criticism of them. And I said any leader that prohibits criticism of themselves does not ever deserve to be in a leadership position. This is a position that I had way before the LNC situation. I had this battle with the Colorado board. That's why the group called Colorado Libertarians Uncensored was started, and why it says that it's gross AF for any leader to prohibit criticism of themselves. And you want to know what? When I was on the Colorado board, same policy applied. Go to Colorado Libertarians Uncensored and you could have said whatever you want, because I signed up for that. And I've gotten plenty of criticism. And if I don't want to see it or don't like it, it's up to me to remove myself from it, not silence the other person. And I do. There's plenty of people I block. But I don't tell them they can't talk. They just can't tell me I have to subject myself to it. But they can talk all they want as long as they have a willing audience. And Thomas Edelton said, and this is true here, the code of conduct was the precursor and omen to mass expulsions that followed anyway. What was interesting is the whole reason. So we're getting maybe a bit ahead of ourselves. So they went and passed this code of conduct, and the concern of members, and it wasn't just Mises members. It was non-Mises members too, that were concerned that this code of conduct would be abused. The board kept assuring people that the code of conduct would not be abused, that they're just not that kind of people. But their actions that followed proved exactly what people had feared, because they did, like they couldn't have followed the script more closely. So because they were willing to pass this code of conduct, like that's real productive activity in the age of COVID. That's what we need to be doing, policing the speech of our members rather than fighting the state. In Massachusetts, of all places, where the state was really, 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 on lockdown. This wasn't Florida we were talking about, where maybe you had things pretty good when it came to what the state was mandating. This is freaking Massachusetts. But no, they decided the most productive use of their time was to monitor the speech of their members because they didn't like it. So under the Massachusetts Constitution, I know this will be foreign. When I say Constitution, I mean the party Constitution, not the state of Massachusetts Constitution, which is equivalent to bylaws in other states. I know not all states have a constitution and bylaws. Thank baby Jesus in a manger that most states are now combining these documents. Washington is combining theirs next weekend. Thank you. Colorado combined theirs the year before. That's old practice. Please, in your state, if you're ever on any of those committees, combine those two documents. It's a nightmare to have two documents. But Massachusetts still has two documents under their constitution. And this is not a right that every state party's governing documents give their members, but it is a right that they have in Massachusetts. And the right is that a certain number, and I think it was 10% of the membership of Massachusetts could file a petition with the state board to have a special convention. And there was very few requirements other than having this signed petition and submitting an agenda. And their constitution said then, as long as it was validly signed, followed, and it had an agenda submitted, that the state board must, not may, or perhaps must call a special convention. It's not optional. The state party got this petition, and on the agenda was to have a recall election of the board. The whole entire board could have been reelected. If they thought they were doing such a wonderful job and representing properly the members of Massachusetts, they had absolutely nothing to fear. Good leadership has nothing to fear from a recall election. And if the members don't want you anymore, the members don't want you anymore in that position. I'm facing the same thing. It's not a recall election, but coming up on Reno, there's no guarantee that I'm going to win vindication as secretary. And if I don't, I'll accept that because that was the membership. That's who has the right to make the decision. And they may decide they do not want me back as secretary. And that will suck. I won't like it. I'll be upset. I'll probably cry a whole lot, but I'll accept it because that's the membership speaking. not the LNC deciding, that they don't like who the members chose. So the Llama board, I understand you want your seats. I get it. I want mine. But it's the membership that makes that decision. And you obviously were so scared of your membership that you just could not countenance this. So instead of calling the special convention, as their constitution requires, absolutely requires, they tried every trick in the book before they tried the final trick, the final tyrannitarian trick that put Will McVeigh to shame. So first they tried to say the people that signed the petition were not really members. Okay, first they heard of it, most of them, because they were, there was all kinds of excuses. And I think that eventually did get dropped. I think there's 2 names potentially that are in dispute out of the 47. So there was still way more than 10%. I think that was the initial hoo-ha that they started, and that kind of dropped. And then the language started going around, just like with the mean bird, that filing the petition was aggression against the state board, even though it was their right under the Constitution. The Constitution didn't say you couldn't call a recall election. Now, the next trick the board started doing after they started with this whole aggression language was to say that the subject matter that was listed on the agenda was out of order. And it may now, it wasn't, but let's pretend like it was, okay? Because it is possible to submit an agenda with things on it that are out of order. That's possible for members to do. But the state board, it doesn't say that after petition of 10% and submission of an agenda, that they review the agenda, and if it meets their approval, then they call the special convention. No, it says they must call the special convention. So the proper procedure, if they really thought those things were out of order, which they weren't, and I don't believe they think they weren't, they just didn't like them. Not liking something and it being out of order are not equal. But what they should have done, if they legitimately believed it was out of order, was to call the special convention, and upon the reading of the agenda, the chair would declare the items out of order. Then the membership would have the right to appeal the ruling of the chair. That's how things work. You don't, as a board, unilaterally declare that. You have to declare it out of order to the body that it affects, which was the membership that called for the special convention. And then they would have the opportunity to appeal. And if you were so convinced you were right and not scared of your membership, you would be, exactly, JJ. You would be, JJ was just reiterating in a smarter terms than I did, what I just said. And if you were so confident you were right and that the membership was on your side, they would sustain the ruling of the chair and everyone would go home. But they knew they weren't right. And I think all of them knew they would lose their seats, or most of them. Here's the funny thing. One of the people, or was it 2? No, 2 of the people, correct? Correct me if I'm wrong. 2 of the people that signed the recall petition were current board members that signed for their own recall. They were willing to put themselves back before the membership to see if the membership still wanted them there. 2. Yeah, Janelle was correct. There's two board members of their own. So it wasn't even the whole board that was scared of the membership. And Janelle was one of them. So then when that out of order thing didn't work, because the 47 just weren't going to go away, they decide to have a meeting without announcing the agenda, meaning there was no notice to the parties involved, to the parties that would be affected. The board then decided to have a meeting and in one motion expel the 47 people who signed that petition for nothing more than signing that petition. That's what they did. I can't make this shit up. I cannot believe that these people can even look themselves in the mirror. And that is about the most anti-libertarian bullshit I have ever heard. And that's where the hashtag Mass47 comes from. It's from the 47 people that signed that petition, and no, they weren't all Mises Caucus members. They were mass expelled in one motion simply for signing that petition. Now, the governing documents of Massachusetts do allow for expulsions of members. They need to be told that they're, listen, even just basic human decency and libertarian sense of justice would tell you that you should at least be able to know that you're being considered for expulsion so that you can defend yourself, even if it's just a short statement. Thank you so much, Paul Lynch, for the super chat. Again, all super chats do go to support my re-election campaign. They didn't even know they were being considered for expulsion. And there are specific procedures for removal of board members. And 2 of the people of those 47 were board members. And none of those procedures were followed. None of those procedures were followed. So that's a nice job if you can get it, right? You just expel everybody who would ever vote against you. Can you imagine? Can you imagine if leading up to the Colorado convention, we can't expel people in Colorado, so this is just sheerly a thought experiment. The board just, poked around to find out who was going to vote against them getting reelected, and we just expelled them. Just made up some reason and expelled them. Oh, and Datmo tells me information that I know that they still weren't even properly notified that they were expelled. And allegedly they were supposed to refund their dues and half of them haven't been paid back. Which is fraud. It was fraud to take your money in the first place if you could be expelled for simply exercising your rights under the Constitution. And Chris Crawford at the famous meeting where Dan Fishman, I wish I had the sound bite for this show. Objection, speculative. What a piece of work. Or as my mom would say, what a pill. Yeah. So, yeah, that's the long and short of it. That's the dachshund of it. So, there was a meeting in which the LNC did nothing. And then Joshua Smith tried, and they did nothing because they said it wasn't in the call to the special meeting. Thank you so much, MD, for the super chat. And on to the LNC. I wish I had that sound bite for this. I'm going to make that sound bite tonight. I got to get the objection speculation or speculative or whatever it was. You're not an attorney, Dan, and you don't get to interrupt LNC meetings. What? I just can't even imagine the ego it took to do that. I just can't. Anyway, yes, and the LNC has its dirty little fingers in this through its staff. Because one of the people involved in this decision to throw out the 47 people was Tara DeSisto, who is a staff member of the LNC. Now, staff are not allowed to interfere in internal party politics. Now, it gets sticky because they're not prohibited from being on state boards, and I think they should be. And we've had a staffer for years on a state board. But this was Bob Johnson in Maryland, and he was so non-controversial. It never was an issue because he never would think to do the kind of crap that's been going on now. But, the bad actors expose flaws in your policy. But one thing they are explicitly not allowed to do, and the reasoning behind this is interfere in internal party politics, because it's the LNC who ultimately decides whether or not they keep their jobs. So LNC staffers are not allowed to tip the balance as to delegates in Reno who then will be electing their bosses. You can see the chain of why this policy is in place. It's not just to keep the roar down to, a dull roar. It's because it directly affects their jobs and whether or not they keep their jobs. And then when you're dealing with a state like Massachusetts, which has a non-significant a non-insignificant number of delegates. They have 20 delegates. That's on the higher end. The average, I think, delegate count for a state, if you average out all the states, is like 13 or 14. So 20 is a good chunk. So in expelling 47 members, Tara tipped the scales as to what delegates would be elected that would be determining. Now, I know she since resigned, but when this happened, she hadn't resigned, whether or not she would keep her job. And she knew that the Mises Caucus people did not like her performance, and that if Mises Caucus people were elected to the LNC, that she would no longer have a job. So this is so corrupt on her part, it's just not even funny. I don't even think everyone has really realized the implications of what Tara DeSisto was doing. And the fact is, Dan Fishman was doing the same thing for 2020. And I believed his bullshit when he originally said it to me, and I don't believe it anymore. Dan Fishman was caught saying, we can't have an in-person convention because it will be dominated by Mises people. And he was the executive director at that time. That was none of his freaking business. And when I confronted him on that, he said it was taken out of context and it was something that Nick Sarwark wanted. And I believed him at the time. But Nick, if you think Dan Fishman's your friend, Dan Fishman threw you under the bus to me so fast your head would have spun. I don't trust either of you. You deserve each other. Because now Dan Fishman is defending the expelling of 47 members. How dare you? Objection! Speculation! Do you think he was on Judge Judy? My God. Even George Phillies was right on this half of the time. I know he's now, I don't know whose side he's on now, but at least part of the time he was right, which was more than I expected. And though, one good thing to come out of this, everyone is seeing how badly Francis and Francis sucks ass. 2 state parties use Francis and Francis. And the only reason North Carolina hasn't had a problem with Francis and Francis yet is because they haven't had a big controversy. Massachusetts has shown that Francis and Francis is completely wholly inadequate to deal with political party disputes. And I like how an LNC member put it in a back channel that I'm not going to say who it was because, again, this was a private conversation. But an LNC member said, maybe Francis and Francis is adequate for a book club deciding what book they're going to read next. And that's about it. So I'm going to go through some of these comments here. Dan said the 47 should be allowed back but can't vote for a year. For what? For exercising their rights under the Constitution? It's just so vile and disgusting. And Paul says the rogue, the illegitimate party, the illegitimate llama, is now supporting a Democrat who joined the LP in the last 72 hours. Wait, I thought it was the Mises Caucus. It was just bringing in all these Republicans to support them. Oh, it's okay when you do it, and you're actually doing it when the Mises Caucus wasn't. Fucking hypocrites. And then this Democrat now is doing what somebody else was claiming that the Mises Caucus wasn't allowed to do, and he's going to be bussing in delegates into Reno. I'll believe it when I see it. Or I'll see it when I believe it. No, I believe it when I see it. That's the right way. But it's so funny how the rules for me, but not for thee, is strong with this bunch, isn't it? Go ahead. Go ahead. Try to bus in people. If they're not delegates, they can't do anything. And if they're going to buy tickets, good. We need more money. We need people to point and laugh at, I guess. I don't know. Was the weirdest press release I had seen. And for a state party to be issuing press releases against members, other libertarians, to be attacking other libertarians. This is all the legacy of Nick Sarwark. This is all directly traced back to Nick Sarwark. And the fact that the Mises Caucus even started and is doing so well because Nick said the party is who shows up. Oh, I guess just not when they show up. I get it. Hypocrites. Or as I said before, when I was talking about the LNC, I'll say it again about the rest of the people who are acting like this. The Bible has something to say about people like you. Whitewashed tombs. You look clean on the outside, but inside you are full of dead man's bones. Brood of vipers. And it says that Dan Fishman levied a threat. I just love when libertarians threaten to sick the state on people. That if they win 3% of the vote in November, they'll use the Secretary of State to shut down anyone using the word libertarian. Interesting. Well, as I've said, the dirty secret that's not a secret anymore is that the National Party doesn't own the word libertarian. They didn't even try to trademark it till 1990. So if they tried to ever stop anyone in any state that was using it before 1990, they really do not have a legal leg to stand on. It's the dirty, not so secret secret. Yeah, Bob Johnston was a wonderful man. And that's the reason why the issue of someone being on staff and being on a state board was never an issue, because he never abused his position. Okay, so that's where we're at in the history. That's where we got to where we're at today. So we were talking about the objection speculation meeting, and Joshua Smith tried to bring a motion, and it was ruled out of order. I don't know if we even got to a ruling, because I think it was still in debate. And everyone pretty much agreed, since it wasn't in the call to the call for the special meeting, that the motion couldn't be heard. And technically, they were in fact right. Now, the LNC has ignored that plenty of times before, but that is in fact what the rules are. So I can't really get too upset about that. So instead, there was supposed to be another meeting, and the meeting was fully sponsored to hear a motion about, that was busing people to the Rogue Convention. Okay, I wasn't sure what convention he was talking about. I thought he was talking about Reno. Okay, I got confused with that press release. So he's busing people to the Rogue Convention. Gotcha. Okay. No wonder that press release was so confusing to me. I was reading it on my phone too, and I'm an old lady. So, I forgot where I was at now, because I was all distracted with me being an old lady and misunderstanding part of that press release. So there was a fully sponsored motion to have a meeting to hear a motion about what was going on in Massachusetts, because Chris Crawford did so terrible at that meeting. She was like, yeah, we threw them out basically because they liked Mises, or they were Mises. She had no shame about it. I mean, props for honesty, I guess, but it was unfathomable to her that anybody would find that astounding. Can you just imagine if the shoe was on the other foot, and this was at a time when the Pragmatist Caucus still existed, and it was like, yeah, we just threw them out because they were with the Pragmatist Caucus. Can you imagine? I just can't even imagine you have to have an ego the size of a blimp. Do you have to go through doorways, sideways, just to get the size of your head through, It's just unreal to me. Absolutely unreal. So they had a fully sponsored meeting, but our LNC rules say that then a certain percentage can cancel the meeting. And of course, the Ebkes and the Valerie Sarwarks all canceled the meeting. And that's kind of where things stood on the LNC front. In the meantime, the expelled 47 had their special state convention and elected a new board. So right now, you have two entities claiming to be Llama. One of them is right, and those are the members, the ones elected by the members, in my opinion. And one of them is rogue, which is the ones whose asses would have gotten thrown out, and that's why they expelled the 47 people, because they wanted to keep this non-power power. Like, fighting for libertarian power is just like, what's the expression, as much sense as tits on a bowl? Like, as I said, the amount of viciousness that someone will use to hold on to a seat is inversely proportional to the amount of power that seat actually has. So they had their special convention. They elected a new board. So you have two boards that are claiming to be the legitimate affiliate. One of them is. You know which one I think it is. But the LNC had wanted to just ignore this. And they thought they successfully ignored it. But today, oh glorious day, oh glorious day, there is a fully sponsored motion. I don't know if the secretary has started the motion yet. It's funny how quick he starts it when Whitney says to jump. You all can tell me, I haven't looked at my emails for a few hours if the motion's been started, but there's a fully sponsored motion to deal with Massachusetts. And yes, Brody says, surprise MFers, they did not see this coming. They did not see this coming. And I want to tell you something. Please cue up the sarcasm music here, if there is such a thing, or put on the sarcasm filter. Play your violins. I feel so sorry for the LNC right now. I feel so bad for them. They're in such a bad position right now because no matter what they decide, they know they're going to draw a JC appeal. Now we're going to see where people really are. Because at least pragmatically, I could understand some votes where you're like, I just want to keep the JC out of this. How can I vote to keep the JC out of this and just let the delegates at Reno decide? Now, I don't agree with that reasoning, but pragmatically, I can understand it. Well, none of them have that out this time because no matter which way this motion goes, they are getting appealed. You guys suck so bad that you're the most appealed LNC in the history of this party. I'm going to send you a trophy. Oh, I actually am. I'm going to make trophies for them. Not for the good ones. There isn't 11 bad ones now. One of them already resigned and one of them already Waldenberged out. One down, 10 to go. I'll show you on the list, Statmo. We're going to be pulling up the motion because we're going to go through it. So no matter what happens, y'all getting appealed. Y'all getting appealed. So now we get to see who you really are. Now, I will tell you a surprise co-sponsor. And I congratulate her for doing it. It doesn't redeem her in my eyes because of past actions, but I am always one to say when someone does something good. Susan Hogarth sponsored the motion. And for that, you know me. Even people I don't like on the LNC, when they do the right thing, I say they do the right thing. I've never not done that. And in sponsoring that motion, Susan Hogarth did the right thing. Let's hope she votes the right way. She usually votes the same way she sponsors, so I think she will vote the right way. So, again, to Susan for sponsoring this motion. We're not BFF, but she did the right thing here. So let's go take a look. Before I pull that up, though, let me actually have it on my screen. And let me see if the ballot... Nope, the ballot hasn't been started yet. Let me find it here. Seeking co-sponsors. And Rich Bowen, God bless him. I love Rich Bowen so freaking much. Let me pull this up. Here we go. And you don't need to, let me put me up here. Yeah, okay. Here is the motion. Now I need to put this monitor either further back. Those of you who are of a certain vintage like me, and I do just once again, because I felt like I didn't thank the people who did the super chats earlier enough. Thank you. So those were super generous super chats. It really does help my campaign. I am really in the closing stretch here of just trying to make it to Reno with everything that I need to, get done. So thank you. I do appreciate the campaign support. Okay. Rich Bowen. I, along with Mr. Ford, and I love how Rich Bowen and Pat Ford work as a team, are seeking co-sponsors for the following motion regarding the Massachusetts affiliate. I have attached as an exhibit a detailed timeline of the ongoing situation in Massachusetts. We are going to go over that timeline briefly. You'll see in a hot minute why I say briefly, because it is a detailed timeline. Like, the Massachusetts people did a great job in documenting what happened. But here it is. Resolution to recognize the rightful state committee of the Libertarian Association of Massachusetts, LAMA. And I'm just going to read it out loud. And it's putting in resolution form a lot of what we just discussed in really long form in an hour. And we're going on 20 minutes now. No, we're not. We're going on 50 minutes. Excuse me. I'm sorry. I got Mountain Dew up my nose, and that's not pleasant. Because I keep forgetting we fuck with the clocks too many times. I was still thinking we were on standard time because I never changed my clock here in the studio. So I was subtracting out an hour. I forgot. We already did the clock thing. So 50 minutes, much better. Okay. Whereas on December 19th, 2021, LAMA membership submitted a petition for a special convention to conduct a recall election of the LAMA State Committee. Whereas the petition contained greater than 10% of valid member signatures required for a special convention in accordance with Article 2, Section 5 of the LAMA Constitution. And it quotes the Constitution, which I'm not going to quote here. Y'all could go to the LNC list and read the Constitution. Because the whereas just repeats what it says. It's just proving, it's the proof for the whereas. Whereas the petition was submitted with an agenda as required by the following constitutional provision. We've discussed that. Whereas on January 10th, the response from the state committee to the properly constituted petition was to expel en masse all petition signatories in violation of basic member rights, due process, and Article 1, Section 3 of the LAMA bylaws, which allow for expulsion of a person from membership, not mass expulsions. If they wanted to expel 47 people, they needed to do it the hard way, one at a time, and give the reasons. Are there usually two L's in LAMA? I did not know that. So is it usually pronounced Yama? I did not know that. I learned something new. All right. So it does say, I do want to read this section. The state committee may, for cause, and signing a petition, which you are allowed to do under the Constitution, is not cause. That's like saying we're throwing you out of the party because you showed up at a state convention. You're allowed to show up at a state convention. So the state committee may, for cause, and they haven't given a cause, by 2/3 secret ballot vote of the entire state committee, expel a person from membership in the Libertarian Association of Massachusetts. An expelled person must receive a 2/3 secret ballot favorable vote from the state committee to rejoin. And then it goes on. Whereas the vote to expel LAMA members was taken during a supposed state committee meeting that had no agenda, thus denying the targeted members notice of any proposed action against them and an opportunity to defend themselves. And the meeting was called to order in closed session against longstanding custom. Their parliamentary authority does not address the topic at all because Francis and Francis doesn't even deal with closed session, and contrary to the public notice given, because there was a public notice given that said nothing about them going into any kind of secret session to expel members. Whereas among the wrongfully expelled were 2 state committee members who were denied any access to due process in violation of Article 4, Section 10 of the Llama Constitution, where it says the state committee may, by 2/3 vote of its entire membership, expel a person from the state committee for cause after affording the accused reasonable access to due process. Whereas a member of the state committee, one of the ones who voted, who has not been a resident of Massachusetts for close to a year, casts their vote for the expulsion in violation of Article 4, Section 8, and Article 1, Section 1 of the Llama Constitution, which basically says you need to live in Massachusetts to be eligible to be on the state committee. Now, what's not in this resolution, because we didn't want Dan Fishman going, speculation, objection, speculation, though I do believe it's correct. We didn't want to argue this point. Ashley Shade also voted, and according to Massachusetts state law, she should have resigned her position the minute she was elected to public office. That is not in this resolution, though it could have been. We only mentioned this one member. Whereas 2 duly elected members of the 2021 Llama State Committee did organize and conduct the special convention as is required by Article 2, Section 5 of the Llama Constitution, and provided notice to the extent possible, given deliberate obstructive actions and omissions by former state committee members. Whereas a new state committee was elected at that special convention on February 26, 2022, in accordance with Llama Bylaws Article 2 and the Llama Constitution Article 2, and as specified on the submitted agenda, with the positions now filled as follows, and there are the names of the new board. Whereas the newly elected state committee has set and noticed their annual convention for April 24th, 2022, at which time the state committee for the next term and national convention delegates will be elected. Notice this. So at the end of February, a new state committee was elected, and they're not even trying to hold on to their power. They're doing what they have to do, and that is called an annual convention at which all those people whose name you just saw might be voted out because they're not holding on to their positions at all costs. They're going to have these positions February for 2 months. For 2 months. They might all get reelected. I don't even know if any of them are rerunning, but they might be. But if they are, they could all be voted out. Notice the exact opposite actions of these people with integrity than the Llama, the ex-Llama board, with a LNC staffer who's still a staffer. She did give her notice of resignation back in February, with her last day being March 31st. They accepted her resignation for March 31st. They should have told her, there's no reason for you to come in starting this moment, but we'll pay you to the end of March. They should have sent her packing at that moment. And in case you guys don't know, because I don't know how public this was, the Libertarian Party of Colorado was paying $90 a month for CRM support. We're not off the CRM, but we used to pay for support. We didn't need it because we have David Aiken here, who knows more about the CRM, except for anybody except for perhaps Andy Burns and Ken Molman. We did not need to pay for support. We had our own in-house support. We were paying $90 a month in order to just support the National Party. But the Libertarian Party of Colorado, in solidarity with Massachusetts, back in February, wrote the executive director and said, we are hereby stopping our $90 a month payment unless Tara DeSisto is excused from her duties immediately. We understand that she gave her resignation, pay her to the end of March, but her keys need to be taken away from her today. So the Libertarian Party of Colorado stands in solidarity with the legitimate board of the Libertarian Association of Massachusetts. I don't know if you guys knew that. I don't know how widely I advertised that. And we told the executive director of the Libertarian Party that we would reconsider our $90 a month payment after Reno. Or if she was given the key, if she was immediately told to take a walk, we would have resumed our $90 a month payment. So Terra de Sisto just costs the CRM $90 a month. All right. So, be it therefore resolved that the Libertarian National Committee recognizes the results of the election at the special convention and the state committee elected therein. And that is what they have to do. Now, whether they vote to do that or not is another matter. But this is a duly elected per that state party's governing documents to the extent possible. And I say to the extent possible because, you know, the one thing in it is they refused to call the special election the way they were supposed to. So they obviously were not turning over the membership rolls to the members that called for the special election. That is the one thing in here that isn't perfect to the T. But it is absolutely unjust to allow bad actors to not allow members to control their own party by them just saying, nah, we're not going to give you the data. So be it therefore resolved that the Libertarian, yeah, I already read that. So that's what they should do. This should be an easy yes vote. This is no different than them recognizing the results of any annual convention. And with the precedent that was set with the Delaware Judicial Committee decision, this is what they should do. So now let's see. Who has the integrity to vote the right way. And I will say, whoever votes the right way on this vote has integrity. I don't think it will cure past actions. Like, you know, Susan, I hope, votes the right way. She still wrongfully expelled a rightful secretary, but good for her if she votes the right way on this one. Like I said, there are no angels or devils in this world, with very rare exceptions. Most people are a mixture of both. But we'll see here who votes which way. I'm not going to make any predictions because I don't want to prejudice the vote. I will just encourage everyone to vote yes. And if your backbone is too weak to vote yes, then just abstain. I do think abstention is cowardly, but being a coward is better than being corrupt. So we shall see how this vote goes, but they all know that no matter which way it goes, it will be appealed. And ultimately, yes, you know, I know John Phillips is going to flounce on in and say, yeah, but the delegates in Reno need to decide. You want to know what? The delegates in Reno are going to decide anyway. The delegates in Reno are going to decide about me. That didn't stop you from voting to remove me, John Phillips, so shut your mouth with that bullshit. You don't really believe in the delegates at convention. You never would have voted the way you did if you actually believed in the fucking delegates at convention. So now, this is where the hard job of being in the national governing body becomes. Let's see how they vote. Ballot hasn't been started yet. I find that funny. So let's look at the co-sponsors so we can give them credit. Stephen Nikala. Susan Hogarth, who we already applauded, but we'll applaud again. Ken Molman. Eric Radsup. Yay. Thank you, gentlemen and lady. Now, here is the very comprehensive timeline. And as you can see, it's 89 pages, so we're not going to go through all 89 pages, but we're going to go through some of it. I don't remember who it was that prepared this or if it was a group effort. Maybe someone can let me know in chat, but whoever prepared this did a bang up job. Like paralegal level bang up job. Good job. It will make, if the legitimate affiliate needs to appeal, and if members need to appeal, it will make our job so much easier. The fact that this was already done. Like, Brody, yeah, this is fantastic. It's just absolutely fantastic. And you even put the revision 1-1 on there. I am like so impressed. So it says Tom wrote a lot of it. Brody edited it. Lots of people gathered docs and you typeset it. Well, you all did a bang up job. I'm very impressed. And you know how fussy I am about this kind of stuff. Because this is like what I do for a living when I'm working. Like this is like paralegal level stuff, you know, background stuff. You guys did a great job. I love the table of contents. I love everything about it. Janelle, I didn't know you were a paralegal. There's a lot of paralegals in this party. What, if you don't mind me asking, you don't need to answer, what type of law did you work in? I'm always just curious at that. Angela McCardle's a paralegal too, by the way, if you didn't know. Okay, so there's summary introduction, and it gives the facts that I gave in, you know, the beginning here. This is on the LNC list. I encourage everyone to read this carefully. We're not going to read the whole thing here. We're going to go through it so you can see what's in here in case it piques your interest. So you have the intro. And Tom signed it. Then you got a chronological statement of facts. Very good chronology. JJ, yeah, it's on the LNC list, but I also have a copy downloaded. I can email it to you, JJ, if that's easier. So Janelle says general practice, family law, criminal. Oh, you do a lot. See, I worked in insurance defense for nearly my whole career, and I want to do other things. I ended up working for a few months doing personal injury, and honestly, I hated it. What I want to do is family law. Believe it or not, I want to do family law and real estate. Oh, you could click on references to jump to the pages. You're fantastic, Brody. So here is the timeline. Okay, it's wonderful. Or you know what else I'm looking at job-wise? There's a lot. My husband's a realtor, so I know a great deal about real estate already, just from osmosis of us having a home office together. But I'm also looking at some executive secretary jobs here, which are a lot of working for boards of directors and taking minutes and things like that. I wonder where I got experience doing that. I wouldn't mind doing that. So we're continuing with the timeline. Okay. Then it gets to the appendices. Now, most of this 89 pages is supporting documents. So the first 6 pages are what everybody, I think, should read. And then we're just going to go through the appendices here. So, you know, you have the meeting minutes of the various meetings that are referenced. Let's continue. I'm not going to critique the minutes. Let it go. Let it go. Okay. Here's, you know, the code of conduct stuff that went through, you know, all of that. Here's some more meeting minutes. Again, this is all support for the first 6 pages. And then there's some resolutions by local affiliates within Massachusetts. Here's the petition for the special convention. And here, the county resolutions of the meet, right? The county resolutions are showing where the heart of the membership is, but I love this. Brody, Terra de Sisto, where have I shown aggression? Terra de Sisto, God, what a piece of work, needs to go back to the Democrats. The petition itself is an act of aggression against the SC. That Facebook post that launched 1,000 ships. All right. And, the Worcester affiliates petition, the Worcester affiliates resolutions. Phillips just chimed in on John Phillips did. What did he say? We'll go to it in a minute. But Jason, if you can tell me what he said, I'm sure it's something infuriating. And if it hasn't been, I'll apologize. Worcester. Sorry. I'm not good with pronunciations. Then, we're just going through these quickly here. Wilsta? Is it Worcester or Wilsta? You guys are going to have to tell me. Okay, there's 2 Wista votes and 1 Worcester. Alrighty. Then here's the letter by me to the state committee members on behalf of Brody. Back on January 27th. He asked for a ruling of the chair. Of course he did. JJ, I have a question though. So if Whitney, that can be appealed, couldn't it? So let's say Whitney rules it out of order. There's an appeal of the ruling of the chair. The ruling of the chair is sustained. I think that can be appealed by a member appeal because that's a decision of the body. No matter what happens here, they're going to get appealed. Phillips is such a coward. Okay, so that's my letter. Y'all can read it if you really want to get into the meat and potatoes of what my parliamentary argument was. And Worcester. Libertarian Party resolutions. And okay, so you're getting an idea. We're just going to scroll through fast here. There's a shit ton of supporting documentation. Okay, so yeah, I got to see what Phillips had to say. New message from John Phillips. And does the other side concede? They don't have to concede, you fucking idiot. My God. If not, I fail to see how this is any different. Because it was Did you learn nothing from the Delaware decision? You're correct. It's not any different. You should have made the right decision on Delaware and you got overturned. Oh my God. So he asked for a ruling of the chair, but oh my God. Assuming they do not concede, of course, if they conceded, you wouldn't be asking the LNC. Oh my God, this is so terrible. This exceeds our authority under the bylaws. No, it does not exceed your authority under the bylaws to recognize the rightful leadership. That's what the JC told you. That's what the JC told you. If you do not recognize the rightful leadership, that is the de facto disaffiliation. Did you learn nothing? Did you learn nothing? Well, we'll see what Whitney says. Whitney has not made a correct ruling yet. I will congratulate her if she makes a correct ruling here. It seems like the tactic is just to drag this on as long as possible. What I would suggest, since there is an appeal of the ruling of the chair, or there will be an appeal of the rule, there's a request for a ruling of the chair, and I'm just anticipating. I think everyone should just agree to a meeting. so that this isn't dragged on. So you 5 sponsors, you should just say, why don't we have a meeting on this in 5 days so that we can get through all these appeals and everything? Because he's just trying to drag it on. So now John Phillips has shown us who he is. Not that we didn't know before. All right. So that is what's going on with the llama drama. Let me go back here. So I will keep you guys updated as to as to what happens. As to what happens from here on. In any event, you can see they're running out the clock, or that's what they're trying to do. In any event, though, I do believe there will be an appeal from one side or the other, or multiple sides. So, unless there's any further questions or comments, I'm giving you guys a little bit just to see if there is. I did not know that. Janelle, I am so sorry that you had to go through something that should be it should be a joyful time and not a stress. I mean, it's going to be stressful in its own way, bringing a new life into the world, but you didn't need this kind of bullshit stress. They expelled you when you were pregnant and having a baby. And thank you, Diana. I wanted to do history tonight, but I have to say, I'm not ass mad about this. I am glad something is finally being done for Massachusetts. I stood for New Hampshire, I stood for Delaware, and I stand for Massachusetts. And I think we are all seeing, like, if I didn't get removed for New Hampshire, and nobody believes that I wasn't at this point, okay? Nobody believes that now, not even the people who did it. Okay, I would have been removed for Delaware. And then if I wasn't removed for Delaware, by this point, I'd have just lost my shit about New Hampshire. Massachusetts. And and I would have done it too. And if you don't mind me asking, I know some people don't like saying babies' names. So if you don't answer, I'll take that as an answer. But otherwise, if you feel like answering, I was wondering what Cutie Pie's name was. All right, everybody. I think that's it for tonight. I am looking so forward to getting into this book. And damn you, LNC. No, not really. I'm not damning the LNC this time. Theodorus. Oh my goodness. That is a very biblical name. At least from that time period. I don't know if you're a Christian, but that's in the very Greek, Koine Greek period of time. Worcester, but the oo is pronounced like book, so it's Worcester. And whether or not you drop the R depends on how Massachusetts you are. So you drop the R if you're very Massachusetts, so it's Worcester. Is that right? Worcester? Is that right? Worcester. I'm sorry. Okay, I'm going to be self-conscious right now because apparently I say the word I'm going to say now, and I'm going to try to say it naturally, but now I'm thinking about it, so I might not. But apparently there's a word that I say real weird, and that's water. People say I say water weird. Like, to me, water. Is that weird? Am I saying water weird? But everyone always laughs at me. They go, what did you just say? I said water. But everyone laughs at me for water. They're like, what accent is that? I go, I don't know. South Florida? That's where I grew up. I don't know what to tell you. Okay, everyone. Maybe tomorrow it'll be history. Maybe tomorrow it'll be more Nick Brana, because I am just diving deep into this People's Party stuff too. So I hope you all have a nice night. I am going to, I got all gussied up because I need to do an Idaho, a video for my campaign for Idaho. And I promised them I would record it. So yeah, DJ, if you haven't saw my show yesterday, I started on the People's Party stuff yesterday. My investigation into Mr. Brana. All right, everyone. I hope you have an awesome night, and I hope to see you soon. And I will be in Washington this weekend. I am serving as their parliamentarian, so if you are in the area, please stop by. I believe it's in Black Diamond, Washington. Love you all. Bye-bye.
Gotta take what you're given, that's how we live it. Don't be mad at the system, it's simply how we've existed. I hear a lot of people talking like they politicians, or choose to be an accountant because it's safe in a business.